Yes, hello. Welcome back to the Human Reproductive System series. This is going to be the female reproductive system. In our previous class, we have studied with about the male reproductive system. We have completed the introduction for human reproduction. So, this is part three of your reproductive system, in which we are going to go and dive in deep into the female reproductive system. We have already seen the initial part, that is ovaries and oviducts. Today we have to cover up the next part of the female reproductive system, that is the uterus. So uterus is further divided into three parts. Here you can see that it is divided into corpus, fundus and cervix. So fundus forms the roof of the uterus, corpus is the middle part of the uterus, and cervix is the opening of the uterus. So we know that uterus is a bag, a muscular bag, in which the fetus is going to spend 9 months. It is going to grow over here, where in the uterus. And during parturition, this uterus is only going to perform massive contractions in order to perform something called as parturition and allow the fetus to come out. Okay, so this is a cushioned, you can say very thick cushioned bag, which is called as what? The uterus. Okay, then this uterus is highly vascular because it has to provide nutrition to the growing fetus. Moreover, the functions of uterus are implantation of the embryo. Now, just like we implant a seed, okay, we implant a seed into the soil. Similarly, this is going to implant the embryo into the walls of the uterus. There are three walls of the uterus: endometrium, the inner lining of the uterus, yeah, endometrium, which is the inner lining of the uterus, then myometrium, which is the middle layer of the uterus, and then exometrium. So endometrium, myometrium and exometrium, these are the three layers of the uterus. Then development and menstruation are another other functions of uterus. Pregnancy, parturition and labor pain and labor is they are the other functions of the uterus. Okay, then again the female copulatory organ, that is the vagina, which is going to receive the male copulatory organ. It's a muscular organ, and it is going to receive the sperms as well. So the sperms have to travel through the vagina into the cervix, through the corpus into the fallopian tube, to the ampular region of the fallopian tube, so that they get fertilized. Okay, they can fertilize the egg. So now let us talk about a little bit more about the ovaries. Now, ovaries are the primary organs for producing the female gamete. Just like testes in males produce the female gamete, similarly, ovaries in female will produce the female gamete, that is the egg. Okay, so mesovarium is one part of the, you can say, mesovarium is the one which is holding the ovaries. Last time we had seen it's the ligament which holds the ovaries. Just like gubernaculum holds the testes, mesovarium is holding the ovaries. Okay, and they are also on the other side, the ovaries are supported by fimbriae. Okay, fimbriae is supported by the fallopian tube. Okay, it's the tip of the fallopian tube or the oviduct. So you can see over here there are primordial follicles over here. These primordial follicles were also present even when the girl herself was her fetus, and they get activated only during puberty. So just after puberty, these eggs will get what? Activated, and once they get activated, they will start producing something called as they will start getting the influence of hormones. They will start producing hormones such as estrogen, progesterone. If you don't mind, just shift this light a little over here. उधर नहीं आ रहा है, जरा कर लो ठीक. Okay, then these primordial follicles, this oocyte, okay, will convert into the oocyte, right? Oocyte is the egg cell. Then these primary follicles which are around the cells, then we are having these granular cells, zona pellucida. मतलब क्या हो रहा है कि जो primordial follicles, ये थोड़ा एक primordial follicle एक ओवरी में, इस बार लेफ्ट ओवरी में हो रहा है तो अगली बार राइट ओवरी में वो होगा, ठीक है, क्योंकि alternate ovaries eggs produce करते हैं. Okay, therefore these primary follicles, okay, what is going to happen? These primordial follicles will start maturing into the primary follicles. They form the oocyte inside it. There will be layer of granular cells, a transparent layer of zona pellucida, and then these zona pellucida, they will mature into something called as a degenerating follicle. Then this degenerating follicle will convert into a Graafian follicle. ठीक है, दरवाजा खोलना है. Then this graphene follicle is having, you can see, layers like theca externa, theca interna, zona pellucida, which is a transparent layer around the egg. Okay, then we are having vesicles. These are the, you can say, empty places. Then secondary follicles are here. Okay, then you can see over here that the graphene follicle further matures and it forms a proper, you can say, antrum, a cavity. And then this cumulus mass, corona radiata are again a group of cells which are surrounding the oocyte. I'm going to show it to you in another diagram. Okay, then zona pellucida, I told you, the transparent layer, and the oocyte is in the center. So what will happen exactly on the 14th day? This graphene follicle will rupture. It will rupture and it will release the egg, right? It will release the egg into the fallopian tube, and from there the ciliary, you can say, ciliary cells, which are thread like, will carry the egg forward. See, egg is non-motile itself, it cannot move, but it can move with the help of cilia. So after the rupture of the graphene follicle on the 14th day, what is going to happen is this graphene follicle which is ruptured, after that it is preserved as corpus luteum. Okay, this corpus luteum, okay, if pregnancy occurs, the function of corpus luteum is to maintain the level of progesterone. If it is not able to maintain the level of progesterone, then what is going to happen? There will be abortion. Okay, there will be menstrual cycle will start the day there is a drop in the level of progesterone. So it is very important to maintain the level of progesterone, and that function for the first 6 months is given to corpus luteum. And then if pregnancy does not occur, then this corpus luteum degenerates into corpus albicans, which is thrown out during the first phase, that is the menstrual phase of the 28-day menstrual cycle. Okay, so along with the unfertilized egg, corpus albicans will also be thrown out. So this is a TS of the ovaries. Okay, then let's move on to the histology of ovaries. Each ovary is surrounded by ligament called as tunica albuginea, just like we had that in the testes. Then the surface of the ovary is covered by germinal epithelium. It shows cortex and medulla, cortex outer part, medulla internal part. It consists of fibrous tissue, blood vessels, and nerves in the stroma. And cortex surrounds the medulla and contains ovarian follicles. Nothing much to explain over here. Then a fully matured follicle is called as graphene follicle, and a reproductive span is for 32 years. We had discussed about this last time. A female on an average produces 400 to 500 eggs in her lifetime. And I spoke about corpus luteum, corpus albicans, and also what is ovulation. So now let us focus on something called as the menstrual cycle. Now, menstrual cycle is one of the, you can say, important cycles for which is involved in reproduction. If there is no menstrual cycle, there will be no production of egg, and if there is no production of egg, the female will not be able to reproduce. Okay, so this menstrual phase consists of certain phases. Okay, it consists of certain phases, like the first phase is the menstrual phase, then we have the ovulatory phase, then the luteal phase, then one more phase is there. So a total of 4 phases are there in the menstrual cycle. Okay, so out of which the menstrual cycle itself begins with the menstrual phase. For the first 5 days there is bleeding. We'll talk about that in detail. So this is a characteristic of primates. Primates are including monkeys. They are showing this special feature of menstrual cycle. Even in other mammals, there is menstrual cycle, but it is not for a month. Like for hen, the menstrual cycle is just for one day. Every day the hen will lay an egg. So it has a repetitive menstrual cycle of on every day. Okay, whereas if you see the menstrual cycle in dogs is like probably once in a year, and in cows, in elephants, it is different. So this is a primary character of the primates. Okay, and even in monkeys it is seen monthly. Okay, so we've discussed about this, how many eggs are produced, and in 28 days every alternate ovary produces an egg. Okay, and the stoppage of the menstrual cycle is called as the menopause. Permanent stoppage is called as menopause. The beginning of the menstrual cycle is menarche, and the temporary stoppage of menstrual cycle is called as dysmenorrhea or amenorrhea. I told you why dysmenorrhea occurs. Dysmenorrhea or amenorrhea occurs because of over stress. Okay, over stress, like how the athletes they perform strenuous exercise, due to which the menstrual cycle may stop in between temporarily. Okay, so these are the simple points which are related to menstrual cycle. Now let us see the scientific part, that is the first menstrual phase, or it's also known as the menses, which lasts for 3 to 5 days, and it results in what? Bleeding. It results in bleeding. In this, the endometrium, okay, is shed, endometrium lining, which is going to form a cushion for the upcoming you can say fetus, but the egg did not get fertilized, and that's why this endometrium is shed out along with the mucus, blood, and the unfertilized egg and the corpus albicans. So all this is eliminated from the body in the first 5 days. Okay, so this is also breakage of endometrium. That's why the bleeding is there, as I told you. This is also referred to as, in poetic language, this is called as crying of the uterus, or it is weeping of the uterus, because the egg did not get fertilized. Okay, then menstrual flow contains of endometrium, 50 to 100 ml of waste blood, and unfertilized egg. I've told you about all this. Then corpus luteum degenerates into corpus albicans, that also I've told you. Thickness of endometrium becomes 0.5 to 1 millimeter, and during this phase, progesterone and estrogen levels in the blood are minimum. Okay, so this was the first phase. Now second phase is the proliferative phase. Now in the proliferative phase, which is also called the follicular phase, which lasts about 8 to 10 days. Now this can also be referred to as the repairing phase. Now repairing phase Q, what has happened is the internal endometrium lining has damaged. It has been released in the form of blood. It has been broken and it is released in the form of blood, mucus, and the unfertilized egg is thrown out. So in this phase, there is going to be repairing. What repairing? Repairing of what? Repairing of the endometrial lining. Okay, let us see in detail. It is a period formation of endometrium, as I told you, and graphene follicle is also formed. FSH levels is maximum. FSH stimulates the primary follicles. You remember in the ovary I had shown you, it will stimulate the primary follicles to convert into graphene follicle and make it ready for releasing the egg. Then estrogen level is maximum on the 12th day, and the progesterone level is absent. Estrogen stimulates the endometrium repairing, and thickness becomes 2 to 3 millimeter. Now the thickness of the endometrium is increasing. Again, cushion is being prepared for the fertilized egg. Then increased level of estrogen inhibits the secretion of FSH and stimulation. So here now we are having the next phase, that is the ovulatory phase. Now in this ovulatory phase, it begins on the 14th day of the menstrual cycle, right? It begins on the 14th day. Now in this ovulatory phase, you can see that the level of LH becomes maximum. Okay, and when the level of LH becomes maximum, that is the day when the egg is going to be released into the fallopian tube. The graphene follicle is going to rupture and the egg will be released in the fallopian tube. Okay, and the peak of LH, the FSH is minimum, and the emptying of the graphene follicle is filled with yellow fluid, lutein, to form corpus luteum due to LH. Okay, now corpus luteum secretes hormone progesterone, which is also known as the pregnancy hormone. It maintains the thickness of the endometrium and maintains kind of pregnancy. You can say if pregnancy does not occur, it will maintain the cycle. Okay, it will not allow menstrual cycle to take place. The day menstrual cycle takes place, the level of it is because of the level, drop in the progesterone level. The uterus becomes more vascular, and the temperature also rises. During this phase, the abdominal temperature will rise. Okay, so this is about the ovulatory phase. Now the last phase, which is also the secretory phase. Now 14th day, the egg is being released into the oviduct or the fallopian tube. Okay, and the 15th day to 28th day, this is the, you can say, fertile days. Okay, not up to the 20th day, but 15 to 21st day is the other fertile days. During this part, when fertilization, if copulation is performed, and sperm will be able to fertilize the egg in the ampulla region. It's only and only if the egg is fertilized in the ampulla region, then only it gets a chance for the pregnancy to occur. If the egg is fertilized later on, that is when it comes closer to the uterus, there in the infundibulum part, if it is fertilized, then there is no use. It cannot be implanted. That many divisions of the cell, the first cell, that is the zygote, does not take place, and that's therefore fertilization also cannot take place if the egg is fertilized not in the ampulla region, but in the latter part of the oviduct or in the uterus. So in that case, it is useless to fertilize the egg. The pregnancy will not occur in that case. Now, the secretion of uterine milk from endometrium is called a secretory phase, and endometrium becomes more thick and vascular and glandular to form comfortable cushion for fertilized egg and its growth. Now, progesterone levels increase and becomes maximum on the 21st day of the menstrual cycle. If the ovum is fertilized, corpus luteum and are retained during pregnancy. Okay, so this is, you can see, the menstruation. Okay, this graph is very very important. You can see here are the days from 1 to 28. Now you can see during the first 5 days what is going to happen, the endometrial lining is going to break, and you can see that the level of progesterone is also going to drop to minimum. The level of estrogen is also minimum, and you can see that the pituitary gland is secreting LH and FSH. They are minimum, but the LH becomes peak exactly on the 14th day. On the 14th day the level of LH is maximum, the level of FSH is also maximum. This is being released by the pituitary gland. Okay, and then this was about the pituitary gland. Now talking about the ovary. Now here during the first phase of the menstrual cycle there are no primordial follicles, but in the second phase, that is the repairing phase, luteal phase, the eggs will start maturing, okay, in one of the ovaries. And by the time you reach up to the 12th day, the Graafian follicle is fully mature and ready to rupture on the 14th day. So on the 14th day you can see that ovulation has taken place. That means the egg has been released into the oviduct. Okay, and then this will degenerate to form corpus luteum. If the egg is not fertilized, it will be converted into corpus albicans. You can see over here it will convert into corpus albicans and will be thrown out during the first phase of menstrual cycle, that is the menstrual phase. Estrogen level also becomes maximum on the 14th day, but the level of progesterone becomes maximum only at the 21st day, because after the 21st day, okay, this is the time where we are expecting the pregnancy to occur. If the pregnancy occurs, this level will be maintained high till for 9 months. But if the pregnancy does not occur, if the fertilization does not occur, you can see that the level of progesterone will go on dropping. Okay, the level of progesterone is going on dropping, and once the level of progesterone drops completely, you can see that the menstrual phase begins from here. Okay, meanwhile talking about the endometrium, it goes on repairing. By the time it's on the 14th day, the endometrial lining is around 2 to 3 millimeter. It further thickens, becomes vascular, temperature, abdominal temperature increases, and it is thickest just before the menstrual phase, that is during the 4th phase or the secretory phase of the menstrual cycle. And on the 20th day, okay, the progesterone level will drop, and you can see that the menstrual phase will begin. Okay, so this is the menstrual phase, menstrual cycle, and the 4 phases of the menstrual cycle. Now here we are going to see the structure of sperm and the structure of ovum. So structure of sperm is such that it has head, neck, middle piece, tail, and end piece. Whereas talking about the ovum, it shows nucleus, cytoplasm, layers of the ovum are zona pellucida. I told you. And I told you that I'm going to talk about corona radiata also, and vitelline membrane and corona radiata. So the sperm has to literally penetrate through the zona pellucida, vitelline membrane, and corona radiata and enter the egg. Okay, so where fertilization will take place, zygote will be formed. Okay, so when once the sperm enters, it's the only head is going to enter, and tail is going to be chipped off. Okay, and when the head enters, the vitelline membrane forms a very strong membrane which prevents the other sperms from entering the egg. Okay, so now further discussing about this, so you can see these are the follicular cells of the graphene follicle. Okay, and this is the cytoplasm, this is the vitelline membrane. It's made up of hyaluronic acid. That's why the sperms are on the head, they are having acrosome. In that acrosome there is hyaluronidase enzyme. This hyaluronidase enzyme is able to penetrate the hyaluronic acid layer and enter into the egg. Okay, that's where the nucleus of the egg and the nucleus of the sperm are going to combine with each other and form what? They're going to form the zygote. Okay, they're going to form zygote. So this is the transparent layer, zona pellucida, and this is the nucleus. Okay, talking about the sperm, I told you the head of the sperm is having the first thing, acrosome, which is having a hyaluronidase enzyme. Okay, and inside the head we are also having the nucleus, the plasma membrane, and the middle piece of the sperm is having something called as the mitochondria, which is going to provide energy for the whip-like movement. Okay, the tail to provide the whip-like movement, and this is going to be provided by fructose. See, in all cells of our body utilize glucose, but the sperm cells of our body, they utilize fructose as a source of energy and not glucose. Okay, so then here we are having the centriole mitochondria, which is the energy house of the cell, then terminal disc, and finally the axial filament and the tail, okay, end piece, which is going to perform the whip like movement. Okay, so talking about fertilization, this is next part of human reproductive system. We'll be discussing that in the following class. Today we have finished with the female reproductive system and also the menstrual cycle. Please take down notes. Until then, enjoy studying.